We'll see. I haven't yet
Unbelievable.
made my decision, but I think Tell Me a Story would be very excited or nervous if I entered into the contest.
Well, this edit's been a long time in coming, but this is the third part of our Jeff and Elizabeth Spitzer interview with Ray Miller and Bob Hall. We also have some dad jokes at the end if you can stick around that long. Now, Jeff, Elizabeth Spitzer.
Just kind of crystallize that now. What is the secret to working together successfully in business?
Okay,
That's
Bob.
good
I'm
question.
gonna. First off, I want to let Jeff know that Jeff has been so good. I told him to keep his class clownness down a little bit out
Under
of
control.
respect.
Yeah, I'm boring.
But Jeff,
Thanks.
go ahead and be yourself here now. I think, Jeff, you should answer this question because it's not really that easy, Bob.
Well, and first the answer for you, Bob, is we'll let you know when we figure it out. It's a work in progress. It's
That's
a
a
lot
great
like
answer.
marriage.
That is
We have a
that's a
fantastic
great answer.
marriage.
Yeah, that's real. That's a
But
real
as-
answer. It's real.
Eh,
Okay.
Yeah, as any married couple would tell you, if they're being honest, it takes effort. It takes work. You have to work on communication. You have to work on sharing your life with another person. We've been together for 17 years in a few months.
And you have a blended
And-
family. You got a blended
and we're-
family. Right?
And yeah, and we both have kids from previous marriages who are grown now, but at one point in time we were all living together in this house, and it was a challenge. It was a big challenge, and it took a lot of work. And the same is true in our business. We're still trying to figure out how to work together, and I think we've come up with sort of a solution that works. We have a single business together, but we focus in separate areas. So I do health coaching with consumers, so everyday people who are looking to improve their health. That's what I do. Liz, most of her work, while she does coaching as well, most of her paid work is training in organizations around mental health awareness, suicide prevention, intervention, things like that. So she's giving them the tools to be able to help people within the organization and out in the community, depending on the focus of the organization. Where my work is with people, helping them create boundaries in their relationships, get over their inner critic, figure out what a healthy lifestyle looks for them, how they can sustain it long term. So we focus in our own areas, and I try not to get too much into her business. She tries not to. Honestly, she's really good. She doesn't get into my business at all. I'm not so good. I'm constantly inserting myself in hers.
To tell a story to that, Bob, I like to tell about something that Jeff and I was invited. Let me back up. First, Jeff was invited as a Braver Angels representative to go to George Fox University a couple of years ago. So George Fox went, and through the discussion, it was like, well, my wife does compassionate listening. And they said, oh, we're interested in that as well. So they had this training for new educators, and Jeff got to come and bring his Braver Angels to one session. And then the following day, I did a session on really two things: mental health first aid, and then added a compassionate listening component to the back of it. Jeff, while we're loading the car and getting ready, Jeff is telling me all about how I need to deliver my presentation and how much time needs to be focused on mental health first aid versus compassionate listening. Because I had, like, if you say an hour, I gave maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes to mental health first aid, and the rest of it all for compassionate listening. And he said, no, not this group. You need it to be mental health first aid and just a little bit on compassionate listening. Now, this is an example of Jeff getting into my business. And I had to finally, not quite so nicely, tell him to stop and mind his own business.
I was in the car on the way to her presentation. She's like, "I got this. I know what I'm doing."
And then I'm going to let Jeff tell the second part of this story. So I did deliver my thing, and then I did my compassionate listening piece. And I feel like Jeff should talk about this part because he got to experience this part.
Let me start out by saying something that I almost never say, how wrong I was. I was so wrong because, yeah, the mental health first aid stuff was applicable, and I'm sure they got, value out of it, but it was the compassionate listening that touched them. And like, she broke people out to practice compassion. She gave them an overview, she explained it, and then she broke out. It was experiential. So people got together in groups to practice compassionate listening. And I sat in a group with 4 other guys, and they were all on the verge of tears. Every guy in this group. Some of these were like macho men.
Wow.
And to hear they would tell a story, and then each person would reflect back to them the facts, the feelings, the values, and the body language that they observed. And to have that reflected back to them brought my group almost to tears, and many other people around, because as she was going around and I looked around afterwards, there were so many tears in the room. It was the compassionate listening that they needed. And I was so wrong and she was so right.
So sometimes when Jeff is trying to tell me what I should do, I'll just say, remember?
Exactly.
I think there are parallels between that and speech feedback too. Sometimes the speech feedback is useful but unnecessary.
Let's bring this back to Toastmasters. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'd like to do it this way. Here's an idea for doubling Toastmasters membership in the district. How many couples are members of Toastmasters? It's usually just the husband or the wife, one partner or the other. What would you say to maybe a partner who isn't a member of Toastmasters to help for them to consider joining? What are the obstacles in their way to joining Toastmasters? What kind of a message would you have to couples?
I think I'll answer part one. I'll answer from one perspective, and I think Jeff can answer to another perspective. I'm going to answer from the perspective of somebody who was in Toastmasters before Jeff was. So I was a member of Babylon. Everybody knows and loves Babylon, right? Yeah. Babylon has some phenomenal members. And they meet on Sundays at 4:00, which was an obstacle for Jeff. So Jeff can talk more about that. But one of the things that I've observed is that Toastmasters, a lot like other organizations, does have a demographic gap. And there's an aging population that's moving out of Toastmasters. And there's probably a real interest in drawing in younger Toastmasters, people in their 20s, 30s, early 40s, to help kind of bring up the member base. Some of the challenges, one, a lot of people are having children later on in life, so it's not the young 20s anymore. A lot of couples are having kids now in their mid 30s to early 40s. And the problems that you might run into is that who's going to watch the kids when the other person is involved in Toastmasters? So you have to be thinking about what are the ages of those that they care for. So if they're caregivers or parents, what's their support system look like, and who will be taking over their time if they're not involved with whatever they're responsible for? So I think that a lot of parents make a choice. This sounds like something that I would really like to do too, but I'm responsible for XYZ, and who would take that if I was participating as well. So maybe couples might do a switch where, the husband does it for a bit and then the wife does it and gives it a try, and so on. That could be a factor, is caregiving and parents. And I think I'll let Jeff talk about the recreational impact or influence that could affect membership.
That was the question. I was very much top of my head because normally we ask very at the beginning of an interview why you joined Toastmasters, and that would be a question for Jeff. So if your wife was
Yeah.
in Toastmasters before you joined, um, what was your experience of Liz being in Toastmasters for however long she was in before you were in, and what made you finally decide to join?
How long were you in Babylon? Do you
I think
remember?
about a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Okay.
I didn't know what Toastmasters was back when she joined Babylon. And I went to a couple of meetings and I liked it. But as she said, they met on Sundays and I wasn't going to commit to a club that met on a weekend. Number one, I'm a huge football fan, so I like to spend my Sundays watching football. So the winters, I'd rather be home watching football, if I'm being honest. And in the summer, we like to get out in the woods and enjoy the nice weather. And I didn't want to have to be back for a Toastmasters meeting at 4 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So I just felt like that didn't work. But I was interested in what she was learning. I could tell that her speech was improving. And that was in like what, 2017, 2016, around that time, I believe.
Yeah, I think 2016 to 2018.
And so I had toyed with the idea of joining another club, but then she, I forget why Liz stopped going to Babylon, but there was a break. And then in 2019, we got serious again and decided that we would find a club that we could join together. And we visited
Hmm.
several clubs around the Portland area and landed on Tell Me a Story because it met Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. We didn't have any other commitments on Tuesday nights. It was in person, just 20-minute drive from here. And honestly, my motivation was twofold. One, yeah, I wanted to improve my speech. And I saw the value in Toastmasters in doing that. But two, I really just wanted to get out of the house more. Worked from home since 2006, way before it was cool for the last few years, right? And so I spent almost all my time here in this office, in this house, and I wanted to get out more. So in December 2019, we joined Tell Me a Story. You can guess how well that part of my plan went because 3 months later, the world shut down and we were online and I was stuck staring at a screen again at home. But there was still obviously a lot of value in it. And I think we've grown together. We have very different styles, first of all, in our speech writing, in our
Hmm.
speech delivery, and how we go about it. Liz actually writes her speeches. I don't know if she writes all of them this way, but I can tell you on more than one occasion, she was still writing her speech in the car on the way to the club meeting. And then she would give a flawless speech, get not flawless, but give an excellent speech, get overwhelmingly positive feedback, and people telling her how she needed to enter the contest. What she did in 2020 or 2020, that's when she was in the contest and she went to the area level.
No,
And
honey,
I was,
that's
yeah,
oh,
because it was right as COVID was becoming a thing. And before
oh,
we,
okay.
like 2 weeks later, uh, that's when everything shut down and we couldn't meet in person anymore.
Oh, okay.
And I still think she got robbed in that contest. Anyway, she was fantastic. And the way that we've grown together, not just in our speech, but it gives us something else to talk about, something else to do together. And when we do, at least before when we were meeting in person, we would treat it as a date night. We would go to the club and then go out to our favorite pho restaurant afterwards. And it was a great way to get out of the house and spend time together. And we would talk about the meeting, talk about our speeches, and enjoy each other's company.
And
So
then,
that's what I would say to a couple who might be looking to or thinking about joining Toastmasters or one's in and the other isn't. First of all, so many clubs are online right now that makes the childcare thing a little easier. Maybe not easy if you have infants, but if you have young kids, you both can be at home online. And two, it gives you something else to bond over.
Wow. Wow.
Do you do you guys evaluate each other's speeches ever? Like
Verbal
in the club?
crutches, verbal crutches. Can we evaluate each other on that? Whose verbal crutches are the worst?
Well, that's another one
I
of the
think
things
Liz
that I was
is,
going
but I'm partial to myself on that. Let me just say one thing about the evaluating of each other in the club. For the first couple of years, I never wanted to evaluate Liz. I was like, I don't want to step in hot water. I don't want to do that. And then I think it was earlier this year when I finally got brave enough to do it because a light clicked on in my head and I thought, wait a minute, this is my chance to give her feedback, criticism with no repercussions. It's all about the speech. And so I have evaluated her a couple of times as she has done me in the club.
very brave. Perhaps
A
one
braver
might
angel.
say a braver angel.
Well, I don't mind feedback. That's not always true in my life, and there are certain areas that I tend to be more tender about than others.
Hmm?
And I can say in my youth, I was very sensitive to feedback because I perceived it as criticism, not good enough, not smart enough, not whatever enough. I've learned to see it differently. I think, I don't know if it was through a book or through a thought leader in an audio file I listened to. They said failure, there's no such thing as failure, it's only feedback. And as I really integrated that principle into my life, I'm much more open to feedback because to me, it doesn't signify failure, it signifies opportunity. So when my husband, I hope that he's felt more and more comfortable being really direct about ways that I could do things better, because I don't see it as you're not doing a good job. It's here's the ways to be awesome. The last evaluation he gave of a speech of mine, he called me out so publicly. He said, "You all like this speech. She wrote it an hour and a half before the club. So her opportunity to improve is to actually spend time writing speeches, practicing it, and developing it better." In front of my whole club, he called me out. And that was uncomfortable, but he was also very correct.
Yeah.
I also gave you a
Feedback is
compliment
good.
in that because the speech was so good. You had people in the club telling you that you should enter the contest with that speech. And they were shocked when I let the cat out of the bag that you had just wrote it a couple hours before. So
I
my
might.
point was, imagine how much even more awesome it could be if you did spend the time on it.
Yeah, just imagine if you had an additional 7 iterations to improve that speech to get to the next, like giving it a different clubs and stuff like that, which is to tie it into his
We could have
district.
2 of these in the house.
You could. The
A power couple.
a
There
power
we
couple.
go. And I took this, what I wrote as my speech for that club is what I gave the writers, that writers retreat. I read it out loud to them as well. And I said, is this quality and is it worth a speech contest?
Yeah.
And the leader of that retreat said he had only heard one other story about the subject, which is haircuts. He said, I've only ever heard one haircut story that wowed me, and yours is better than his. So I might, and I can't imagine, Bob, how much better it would be if it was 7 iterations later.
Well, that's
You know,
one of the things that I got from my speech writing process, because the speech I did, I don't remember how many years ago it is now, but my contest speech started off as basically just essentially a table topic, much like your speech that you'd written an hour and a half before. And I've only learned really over the last couple of years what my writing process is. It is iterative by design. I have an idea. I have a line in my head that I can't get out of my head. And then I build stuff, bubbles around it that become structure of my speech. And then it's by repeating it. Like I've repeated the same stories enough times that they have started to feel different for me. Even though they are the same memories, they are the same stories, I focus in on different parts of them, and they just feel more important for different reasons in different places. So it's,
Liz, I mean, you say this like this is a first time that let me tell you, the winner of the International Speech Contest, world champion this year, this was her very first speech contest, and she went all the way to #1, Jocelyn Tyson. And she told a story about a triathlon.
We'll see. I haven't yet
Unbelievable.
made my decision, but I think Tell Me a Story would be very excited or nervous if I entered into the contest.
You could do it. We could be looking at the next the 2024 International Speech Contest winner right here on the screen. You never know.
Maybe. But if I'll say this, Bob, just like Jeff shared in his, that if that's where I got, it was because I had rested on the shoulders of giants and angels in District 7.
Good answer. That's true.
very good answer.
Very good answer.
So we're approaching the end of our time. We've been on the call now for well over an hour. So for somebody who said they didn't have more than 20 minutes to talk about, I think we've done well. One thing I always like to finish these recordings off with is to ask you guys, what is the thing that you're working on right now that you can promote, that you would like to promote within District 7, with whether it's something you're working on personally or professionally, or something you're developing? What are you working on right now?
Liz, do you want to go first?
You go first, Jeff. You go first.
You can play pointing at each other as long as you want, as long as one of you leans into it.
Yeah, lean in, Jeff. You have a lot that you're quite excited about right now. And so please.
I'll give you a couple things. Yeah. One, we've already talked about Braver Angels. It's still a big part of my life. I put a lot of volunteer hours into the organization because I believe in the cause so much. I see the results when people come to our events and they think that they got roped into it. They'll see what it's about. They're not going to have anything in common with, the person on the other side of the aisle, and they leave like hugging new friends. It's so rewarding. I got to tell you, it's so fulfilling to do that. So Braver Angels, check it out. We're very active for those. Well, District 7 is Oregon primarily, and we're very active in Oregon. So there might be something near you. Get in contact with me if it's not and you would like to bring it to your community. The other thing, I'll give a shameless plug for our business. Liz does professional training, as I mentioned, in organizations, mental health awareness, suicide prevention, intervention. Myself, I've been a health coach since 2017, but it's all been one-on-one up until this year. I finally developed a group format that I'm really excited about. I built it out as a 12-week course that people misunderstand until I explain, because people think it's about eat this, not that. That's not at all. Of my 12 weeks, we talk about food and exercise for maybe 3 of them. It's all here. It's all about mindset, as I mentioned, setting boundaries, figuring out a balance in your life. And that is what I work on. And I'm really excited to help people through that process. It really gets me out of bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to share this podcast with somebody in your sphere, like somebody in Braver Angels, who could we send this to let them know that, you guys are out there?
Send to Braver Angels, folks.
Yeah. We want to promote you. Okay.
Well, I'm the red state coordinator. So
And then who's above
you've
you?
got me. If you want to go to the national level, I'll get
Yes.
you in contact. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Let's
happy
do
to give
that.
you a contact person.
Let's get the word out
Either
of the
that or
national level.
either that or when it's posted up to the District 7 channel, you can share it up the line and Braver Angels to talk about it too. And in fact, I can even put this clip over at the front of it. So Liz, what are you working on right now? What's your promotion?
I'm not creating any individual programs at this time, but I am thinking of a few. So let me share with you what my hope and goals are for 2024.
Yes.
I'd like to, there's organizations that really do work I'm quite drawn to. For example, Northwest Outward Bound is an organization that does outdoor activities to build leadership, self-resiliency, and all this other stuff, putting people in situations that they think they're not capable of, and they just come out emerging as these powerfully strong individuals. So I hope to do some work with Northwest Outward Bound in some way. I'm going to be working with NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, Clackamas, their office, do some work with them this year. I really want to get more compassionate listening workshops out there in the world, because I really believe in the practice. And hopefully with some nonprofits that work with people in recovery, maybe they have some houses, and work with them and teaching this skill to those who live there. And I also am really exploring the idea of doing coaching on a trail. So the way this would look would be go to a trailhead. There's a lot of places in Oregon. This gets me excited. Meet at a trailhead, and I do some basic coach skill training in that moment. Partner people up together with somebody for the trail walk. We head out on a trail to our destination. While we're doing that, they basically talk about and work with that coach skill that I introduced at the trailhead. At the top, have a break, process, how did it go so far? Basically close the process on the way back to the car, have a closing session. And what I'm excited about with that is it builds the unity of two things I really love. One, the outdoors, and two, helping people feel better about themselves and what they do in the world. So,
wow. Walk and talk. That's a
walk
great idea.
and talk.
For
Yes.
somebody who likes walking meetings, that's right up my alley.
Yes.
And for somebody who did Ironman twice, I am also understanding the pushing yourself into boundaries you can't really imagine getting to.
Yeah, and maybe there'll be some trail running in there for people who are now trail running in the Pacific Northwest is a niche, and there are people who are big on it, and then there are people who are just trying to merge in, and I meet them on the trails and I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Because they're so new, they're uncomfortable. And what if it's bringing those individuals into experiences, gradually building them into the experiences in which when they're running on a trail, they're flying because they feel so confident and they're not worried about twisting that ankle or falling. And if they do, their body is so responsive, they're quick to just bounce right back up. So
you're speaking to the converted here. I live 10 minutes away from the Baden Powell Trail in North Vancouver, which is a famous hiking trail network. I also ran the Diaz Vista 50K, which is an ultra marathon we have not far away too. But
you are way more trail than I am. I think I hit 15 miles and I'm good. I never have felt like I needed to run a marathon.
I think using the present tense, the writer in me challenges using the present tense as in I haven't done it in a while. I was. Potentially I could be again. Who is a comedian that has a line that's kind of terrible to say, but I won't say it, but I might could again. I might could again. You give me some time.
What I think in my vision for what Jeff and I do together is, as you can see, I have passion about working with organizations that help people and build them to become, to be better equipped in their lives, whether that's through the outdoors or better understanding in mental health and mental health challenges and disorders and so on. And Jeff focuses on the health part. So our business, Head, Heart, Health, is the vision of integrating holistically all aspects of a person. So when I think of the idea of our future, it is, we're integrating, eventually we're going to integrate all parts of this into one thing. Maybe it's a coaching program in which I focus on, maybe we have a resiliency program where Jeff focuses on what does health resiliency look like? And I would focus on what does mental and emotional resiliency look like? And I'm really excited for that. That's something we've talked about. So when he
Wow.
talked about staying in lanes earlier, Bob, this is the lane we're not quite ready.
We have to talk. I came up with an acronym on the PCT called a healthy hike, HEALTHY, and it's an acronym.
Yay. Okay.
And I just realized H28 is head, heart, health, right?
It's H3H.
Or H3H.
H3H. Head, heart, health. Yes.
Head, heart,
health. That resonates so deeply with me. That is fantastic. We have to talk some more.
Thank you very much for being a part of this experiment. Both of you had way more to say than either of you thought you did. And it was a really great experience.
We've had good interviewers, because if you interview well, then people contribute well.
We've concluded the interview. Now we can do the extra little bits to have fun with. What's your dad joke?
All my dad jokes are on the fridge. Jeff, you gotta go get them.
Try and remember
I'm gonna
one.
step away and go grab the calendar, but I know that she remembers some off the top of her head.
One of my dad jokes is very specifically from the calendar. So
there's one that I thought, this one took me a while to get, and every time I looked at it, I was like, is that funny? And it says, after my daughter gave me my 50th birthday card, I cried and said, you could have just given me one.
Oh, well, this is one I heard on Doc Talk on TikTok. It says, hi, I'm afraid for the calendar. Its days are numbered.
Okay, here's one. The rule I before E, except after C, has been disproven by science.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good
here's
groaner.
one. Dad, I need a new computer mic. Well, what's wrong with Matt or Mark?
That
one's kind of a groaner.
One off the calendar.
Here's another one. Here's another one. I just ordered a chicken and an egg from Amazon.
Which one came?
I'll let you know.
See,
do you know what the leading cause of dry skin is?
No.
Towels.
Well, my wife told me to put ketchup on the shopping list. Now I can't read anything.
Oh.
I once told a joke on Zoom, and nobody laughed. I'm not even remotely funny.
Oh,
that one's good, Bob.
All right, I got one more here. I got one more, and I lost it. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Oh, this one. I used to be addicted to the hokey pokey, but then I turned myself around.
Oh.
Wait, one more. What's blue and smells like red paint?
Paint?
Blue paint.
Yeah, true. That one's a good one. Here, I got one final one I wrote down to that I think I liked. Well, I don't mean to brag, but cashiers are always checking me out.
Mhm. May you live as long as you want and not want for as long as you live. That's an Irish toast.
I
Like
like
that.
that.
Bread, cinnamon, eggs, and maple syrup is a French toast.
Ah.
Oh, that's
And
good.
with that, I think I can conclude the recording with the old Zoom button here, unless there's anything else that we need to say. Well, this could go on forever, but alas, I have to edit another video because we have lots more of these recorded and ready to post up now. That was Jeff and Elizabeth Spitzer, the last part of our interview from December of last year. Our next interview to be posted after this will be with the past PR manager, Stefana Johnson. So look for that following almost immediately after this one. Thanks.